If you're reading this, I'm probably already dead. I'm not a dramatic man. I fix roofs. I mow lawns. Ask anyone in this town, and they'll tell you I don't make things up. So, when I tell you something is dragging itself across the floor above my head right now, on the 12th day since this began, I need you to believe every word I'm about to write. This is a small town, the kind where everybody knows everybody, and a man like me can make a living just fixing what breaks. Roofs, fences, clogged drains. Nothing ever happened here worth writing down. It started with an old woman named Jill Johnson and her garden on Clover Street. Ems. Johnson had worked that plot of dirt for over 40 years. She kept a green notebook full of soil readings and rainfall notes. She'd won the regional gardening prize more times than anyone could count. And the reason was always the same: her ivy. Thick, glossy, climbing over every wall she owned. She called it her green curtain. I did odd jobs around town, and twice a week I worked her garden. Digging, spraying, hauling dirt. Good pay, better lemonade. 2 weeks before everything fell apart, she handed me a plastic jug of homemade fertilizer, something she'd spent 2 years perfecting. "What's in it?" I asked. "A trade secret," she said, smiling like she'd already won something. The stuff smelled like a sewer left out in July. She told me strong nutrients smell strong. I sprayed it on the ivy exactly the way she showed me, rinsed the sprayer out, and went home. For 2 days, nothing happened. The ivy looked the same as it always had: green, healthy, ordinary. On the 3rd day, the ivy grew a foot an hour. I'm not rounding that number up. I drove a stick into the dirt Thursday morning to measure it against. By Thursday night, the stick was buried under new growth. You couldn't watch the vines move if you stared straight at them. But look away for a minute, then look back, and they'd crawled another few inches closer to wherever they were headed. By the weekend, it had gone over Ems. Johnson's back wall and into 3 neighboring yards, climbing fence posts, curling around mailboxes, working its way up the side of a parked truck. A crew of us went out with pruning shears and cut it back to bare dirt. It felt good watching that pile of severed vines grow in the street. Felt like winning. The next morning, every inch we'd cut had grown back, and then some. Ems. Johnson stopped answering her door around then. Nobody thought much of it at first. We had bigger problems, or so we told ourselves. The animals started disappearing next. A cat that hadn't wandered past the end of its block in 12 years never came home. A neighbor's dog went missing the same weekend. Then, one afternoon, a man named Paul watched the ivy come off his fence and wrap around his dog like a rope pulling tight. He grabbed for it. He couldn't hold on. By morning, the dog was gone. Not dead somewhere. Gone. No body. No blood. Nothing left behind at all. The birds went quiet after that. Every morning in this town used to start with birdsong. By the end of the first week, the sky was empty and silent. The mayor called an emergency meeting in the town hall. Nearly every adult in town packed into that room, scared and talking over each other. Someone asked where Ems. Johnson was. Nobody had an answer. I remember the room going quiet at that, just for a second, before the arguing started up again. We agreed on two things that night. Gather every drop of weed killer in town and start cutting the ivy back in shifts, block by block, starting at first light. We tried weed killer. We doubled it, then tripled it. The vines would brown, wilt, and push fresh green growth right through the dead parts within the hour, like the poison meant nothing to it. So we tried fire. 20 of us with torches, cutting a burn line through the thickest growth. For about an hour, it worked. Then the ivy that hadn't caught fire yet started moving faster, coming at us from both sides, like it understood exactly what we were trying to do. A man got too close. A burning vine reached out, grabbed his rake, and pulled. We stood in silence after we got him back. Normal plants don't do that. None of us said it out loud, but we all knew it right then. We weren't fighting a fast-growing weed anymore. By the 10th day, it had circled the whole town, pulling down every power line and phone line on its way around. We were sealed in with it. People stopped going outside after that. We spent the day boarding windows, stuffing gaps in door frames, moving families into the buildings with the fewest windows, the town hall, the school, the church. Every morning the clear ground was a little smaller than it had been the night before. We had already lost people by then. Not many. Enough that nobody said their names out loud anymore. On the 11th day, I was walking close to a wall, staying quiet the way we'd all learned to by then. And I looked up without thinking. There was an eye in the vines. Round, pale, set into the leaves about 6 feet off the ground, with a dark center that was locked onto me and nothing else. It blinked slow, like it hadn't been doing that very long, and was still getting used to the motion. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. My back was flat against that wall, and my heart was slamming so hard I was sure it could hear that too. After a long moment, the vines shifted and folded back over it, and I walked the rest of the way to the town hall as fast and as quiet as I could manage. I wasn't the only one who'd seen one. Others had found eyes low on garden walls, watching kitchen windows from the ground. It had moved past growing, past feeding. Now it watched. And whatever was behind those eyes was learning. That's what brought me to this basement. I've stuffed rags into every crack in the foundation. I've been sitting here 2 days with one lantern turned low, writing this down by hand because it's the last thing I can still control. I don't know if help is coming. Maybe someone outside noticed this town went quiet. Maybe not. I'm not counting on it. What I'm counting on is this notebook, sealed up and left somewhere it might be found. I think about Ems Johnson, about the last thing she ever said to me, standing proud in that garden with her hands on her hips. She said ivy has determination, that it knows exactly what it wants and goes after it. I never should have sprayed that fertilizer without asking what was in it. That's on me, and I'll carry it for however long I've got left. But I'm not writing this down to be forgiven. I'm writing it so whoever finds this notebook knows exactly how it started, what it can do, and that the formula behind it needs to be found and destroyed before anyone else so much as thinks about mixing something like it again. The dragging sound above me just stopped. I'm going to be very still now. If that made your skin crawl more than a houseplant has any right to, that's the job done. Subscribe for more of these and stay quiet out there.